Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Horizon Live. Joining me in the studio today is the Foreign Minister of the Republic of Artsakh, Babayan. Hello, Dr. Babayan, and welcome. It is your first visit to Los Angeles since September 27th, when the war erupted. Welcome, and we know that you have left behind a lot to be here with us so we can know firsthand what's going on. Let's first of all talk about what is happening today as we speak on the borders of Armenia and Artsakh.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting here, because it's a great honor and privilege to be here in the studio in the Horizon TV channel, which is one of the most well-known Armenian TV channels worldwide, by the way. So, yes, we have entered a very kind of historical period of our history. We face existential threats and a new genocide. This is why we have to be united. We have to do everything possible, both on geopolitical front and also in our domestic politics, to be reunited, to maximize all our resources, and not to allow any bad tendency to happen. We still have possibilities to do that.
What are those possibilities? It's very difficult for us sitting tens of thousands of miles away to really understand those possibilities.
No, it's difficult, but it's possible. Because indifference, this is the most important problem we have. So for diaspora, Artsakh should become, at least for some period of time, #1 issue. We call our compatriots to make Artsakhocentric policy the basis of pan-Armenian political agenda. Because if there is no Artsakh, there will be no Armenia. You see what's happening. Artsakh, for many decades, it was a shield for Armenia. Yes, it's heavy, but it's not burden. Now we see that when this shield is being, to some extent, destroyed, we know that those very dangerous vectors are trying to penetrate into Armenia proper. So what we have to do is just to always demonstrate to the world, to the American society, to American establishments, that Armenians are united and Artsakh is a problem which is #1 for the entire Armenians. They have to know that, because these kind of signals will also reach other states and forces, geopolitical actors. It cannot just be neglected by the world, and it will change the situation. This is why it's very important now. We still have time, and we call our American friends to understand one simple thing. The struggle of Artsakh and Armenia is not only the struggle for self-determination and security, decent future of our people. It is also the struggle against tyranny, against dictatorial regimes which want to destroy democratic states. Dictatorial Azerbaijan and Turkey, which also have established a close alliance with terrorists. This is already a threat to the entire civilized world. This is why it's very important. If great powers don't pay attention to little countries, they will face great problems later on.
Incidentally, Foreign Minister Babayan is here in Los Angeles at the invitation of the Armenian National Committee of America Western Region. He will be speaking on Saturday at its grassroots conference and will be attending its annual event on Sunday evening, where he will also be honored. He's going to also have meetings with community leaders later on in the week, as well as some non-Armenian and political officials. You're just coming from Washington. Some of the issues that you just brought up, hopefully you had an opportunity to discuss with some legislatures and other people in office. How did they respond?
Well, I think that with deep concern and interest, because people who really understand all those things cannot be indifferent. Well, we understand that there are some political considerations, calculations, which is normal. But on the other hand, values are also very important. If we replace values with price, it will bring to a catastrophe. There is only one, let's say, peculiarity here: time. It may come in 1 year, 10 years, or whatever, but it will come definitely. So this is our message. Don't be indifferent. Don't neglect values, because if you neglect values, you will have problems. You know, the situation is very much similar to what happened in 1930s with Germany. Because at that time, the West and the Soviets tried to use Nazis against each other. They supported them in different ways. But what was the result? Everybody lost. So Turkey now behaves exactly like Nazi Germany in 1930s. By the way, Erdogan is a politician who openly prizes Hitler, and we don't see any response. During, you know that episode, probably very nasty thing, when President Erdogan and President Aliyev, together with their wives, visited Artsakh, occupied territories of Artsakh. And openly, the wife of Erdogan advises to their Azerbaijani brothers that, and sister, in terms of Mehriban Aliyeva, the first lady and the first vice president of Azerbaijan, that you have to speculate with the issue of prisoners of war and try to, connect it with the maps of minefields. Can you imagine the cynicism and hatred, the level of hatred? This is a gross violation of international law, international humanitarian law, and we see indifference. If today these kind of things happen in Artsakh and with Armenian people, tomorrow it will be there.
And one of the individuals that you came in contact with in Washington was Representative Frank Pallone, who just was last weekend on the delegation with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. What was his impression of what's going on in Armenia and Artsakh?
Well, Pallone is really a man of values. And he understands our concerns. We had a very fruitful conversation with Congressman Pallone, and I think that he comprehends the situation.
It's interesting that since last week's attack on Armenia proper, there seems to be a change in the U.S. Attitude toward this issue. Yet we have been talking about this for 30 years with our political officials. What do you think this change is?
Well, we have to wait and see, because the wording and the fact that many U.S. officials, especially in the Congress and Senate, understand the threat and they are condemning Azerbaijan, it's a very positive thing. And we saw in recent developments in the Congress and speeches of several congressmen, how they perceive the situation, and they called U.S. to impose sanctions on Azerbaijan. Now we have to make words deeds, and then see, because if we still have possibility to somehow contain Azerbaijan and Turkey politically, after some period of time, it will be already impossible.
Yeah. And I guess it is up to us here in the United States to speak to our elected officials and kind of press them to, as you said, make those words into actual deeds, because it is a human issue. It's not it's not Armenia, Artsakh. For us, it is Armenia and Artsakh, but from a larger perspective. It's a human rights issue, it's a justice issue, and also an issue of democracy. I want to go and talk about kind of the daily realities in Artsakh. For example, one of the many questions that I get as the editor of Asbarez from our readers or wherever I go is the role of the Russian peacekeepers. What is their role? And you know, we saw last month everything that happened in Berzor. We saw in March with Parukh and everything else. What is going on there?
Look, we are at the beginning. Let us clarify one very important issue. We have to indeed comprehend the reality with all its problems. And we have to be wise enough, because geopolitics is a very tough thing. Naiveness or stupidity will be punished immediately. So Armenian people has a unique opportunity. I think that there is only one nation, two nations actually in the world, who can have this luxury to maintain good relations with many countries who have problems with each other. These are the Armenians and Jews. Why? Because we have diaspora. This gives us a very interesting possibility, leverage, you know, to somehow avoid difficulties and maintain good relations with those countries which are very important geopolitically, and where we have Armenian diaspora. We must have good relations, fraternal relations with those countries. This is why when people say that they are pro-Western, for example, the only criteria should not be hatred towards Russia. We don't have such a luxury again to hate somebody. And if somebody considers Russia to be closer than the West, it doesn't mean that the only criteria should be hatred towards the West, because in this case we will lose everything, definitely. Because a man should be stupid or anti-national to wage such kind of policy if we have an alternative to maintain good relations with everybody. Our fraternal relations with Russia are not directed against United States and vice versa. We have this possibility to have good relations with Russia, with the US, with Iran, with France, with many other countries. This is why we should all understand this, especially taking into consideration the severe situation which we are in. So the Russian peacekeepers, as to this question, play probably the most important role in maintaining relative peace and stability in the region. Without Russian peacekeeping force, believe me, there will be no Artsakh. We have to understand this correctly. Before any country in the world even start to think whether to help or not help Artsakh, there will be no Artsakh. We also understand that it's difficult for them too to maintain peace, especially when they are dealing with Turks and Azeris. Because you see, I may say one maybe strange thing, but they didn't know with whom they were dealing. Now a lot of things have become clear, that in terms of Azerbaijan and Turkey, they have a very, unpredictable partners, cunning partners, which can at any time make such a moves that will hurt the interest and security of the Russians themselves. This is why, for example, the Parukh incident was exactly of that sort. And as to Berzor and Aghavno, this is a tragedy for us. But unfortunately, this is a personal tragedy for me and for each Artsakh and for each Armenian, for you, for any patriotic people. But this issue was part of that notorious 2020 agreement, unfortunately. Now what we have to do is just be very wise enough, because geopolitical battles and their results are first of all planned and elaborated in minds and hearts, and later on, on the battlefield. So what we have to do is always to keep this balance. It will be a total tragedy if we try to, I don't know, choose between the great powers. If we try to somehow, play any game, if we have the possibility to have good relations with all of them, we must do that, because indeed we are facing existential threats, and this is the most difficult and dangerous period in our entire history.
One of the things that you continuously say, and so do other Artsakh officials, is that any status under Azerbaijan is unacceptable. And Artsakh's independence and self-determination must be respected. And then, of course, there's that whole issue of the OSCE Minsk group co-chairs, where our enemy is essentially saying that they don't exist. And we're also hearing murmurs from different capitals in the world that that process is faltering. How do you envision this happening right now, given some of the issues that emanate from that, as you said, notorious agreement in 2020?
Look, when we are talking about relations with Azerbaijan, we are not against negotiations, some settlement of problems, but this cannot be at the expense of Artsakh's future. Because within Azerbaijan, we don't have any future. Rather we have one future: total extermination, genocide, deportation, etc. Why? Not because of the people. There are no bad or good people. There are bad or good states. Azerbaijan is a state where Armenophobia is a state, so to say, ideology or religion. It is one of the manifestations of Nazism. So within Azerbaijan, again, there will be no Artsakh. Sometimes we can hear that people say that, well, maybe it will be willing, Azerbaijan, to provide some security and rights to the people of Artsakh. And we always make this comparison. Well, these poor people who were enslaved by the Nazis in concentration camps, they also had freedom and liberty. They were free to sleep every day for 10 minutes, for example. They were totally free to see what kind of dreams they saw. But is it enough to say about safety, security? Of course not. So we have to understand this. As to OSCE Minsk Group, and especially Minsk Group co-chairmanship, now we see that their work has been frozen because of the Russia-West problems. But only Azerbaijan says that there is no, this organization and has expired its work and it's not in need. Russians say that, well, it is frozen maybe one day. For us, it's very important to have this Minsk Group format because, first of all, it's the only working and more or less, objective format of negotiations platform. Second, Artsakh status as a party to the conflict and negotiation party, these kind of things have been recognized by the OSCE format. So why Azerbaijan wants to abandon this, refute this format? Because of this very reason. Because if there is OSCE Minsk Group format and co-chairmanship, it means that there is Artsakh and the issue hasn't been solved. This is why it wants just to destroy everything which is related and which recognizes Artsakh as a distinct entity.
How are the people in Artsakh coping with, this whole situation. I was talking to someone the other day, and I said, for the last 2 years, I have been reporting bad news on a daily basis. Well, my reporting it is one thing. The real heroes of the scenario are the people of Artsakh who are actually living it and enduring it. How is the population coping with this whole situation?
Well, first of all, we have to know and never forget that we are forging our future, that our future is in our hands. Even if the entire world says you have to be part of Azerbaijan and you refuse that, nobody can press you because principle stance is at the heart of national pride and also geopolitics. Look how Azerbaijan behaves. It even, can make aggressive statements and wage aggressive policy against Russia, United States, I don't know, Europe, UN. Why? Because, well, they have this principle stance. Evil in its nature, but principle stance. So we have to be also to follow this principle stance. We have to understand that there is possibility to save the country and that Armenian people possesses enormous level of resilience. Because in our place, put many other nations in our place, they will not even, I don't know, live there for 1-2 days. They will immigrate immediately. But we are there. And we celebrate birthdays. Our maternity hospital is actively, operating. So babies were born and life is continuing. This means that we have this potential. Of course, we are in a very difficult situation, but we consider this to be a mission toward the generations to come, a mission which we have to carry out, respecting the memory of millions of Armenian victims of different genocides, starting from 1915, before and ending with this recent, aggressive acts of Azerbaijan and Turkey. So it's a mission. It's a mission, it's a dedication, and it helps us to overcome and face those difficulties because we have kind of asymmetry of motivations. For us, it's a matter of survival. It's a matter of values. For Azerbaijan, it's a matter of ambitions and aggression.
You talked about the role that the diaspora has to play. From where I'm sitting, and again, having covered this for 30 years, and more specifically the past 2 years, I feel as a diasporan that perhaps our approach should kind of change a little bit, taking lessons from the past. What do you think the diaspora should be doing right now?
Well, I think that the diaspora is also struggling for its future. It's also a front line of keeping your national identity alive, of maintaining ties with historical homeland, of being worthy citizens of your host country. This is, again, a great challenge. But now we have to, again, think about our homeland, not be indifferent. Because if there is no Artsakh, there will be no Armenia. Without Armenian diaspora, will survive only for 1-2 generations, and it will just evaporate. How can we let a God-chosen people to have such an end? I mean, it's not something which we want. And believe me, God is almighty and He is generous. He will not give us a destiny we maybe do deserve. He will give some chance, and we have to use that chance.
And because for a lot of people, that concept of that we always talked about, and I in fact wrote in our editorial for September 2nd, that the right to self-determination, the democratic choice to become independent, and then the referendum and all of that. In the larger context of things, for some it gets lost. How can we bring that issue and reinforce it in every Armenian? Because the point that I made was exactly what you said, that without Artsakh and its independence, our entire nation is at risk of surviving.
You touched upon a very important issue with a very sophisticated manner. First of all, we have to reinforce and revive, you are right, this idea among Armenians. Artsakh, again, it was a heavy thing, it was a heavy shield, but it isn't a burden. Look what happened. This is why each Armenian should understand that there is no difference between Artsakh, Yerevan, or whatever. And if we somehow guarantee the same level of comprehension within Armenian world, then it will be much easier to work in different international fora. What we have to do is just to increase the perception of Artsakh, strengthen it. This is why I ask our compatriots, our brothers and sisters in the diaspora and worldwide, to have this Artsakhocentric approach, to consider Artsakh issue number one. Not forgetting about our pan-Armenian issues, recognition of genocide, other things. But at least in the short-term and mid-term perspectives, Artsakhocentric approach should be at the heart, at the basis of our political agenda, national political agenda.
Plus, we also have to, as a nation, realize that what's happening today on the borders of Armenia and Azerbaijan is an actual continuation of what started, I would say, on September 27th, but before that. And I think our viewers should understand that this is a national reality that we're all living with. Last month it was Berzor. This month it is Sunik, Gerarkunik, and Vayotzor, and it could be something else. We all have to recognize this is one struggle.
Correct.
For survival. Before we close, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, I would like just to wish everybody good health, robust health, wisdom, and unshakable faith. This is not the end of our history. This is kind of a new page, a revival, and we have to be ready for that.
And speaking to you, we're also are fortunate to have you here personally, because we do, as we Armenians say, "Pet kunek gotepend velu," and you bring that to us, and do understand that our community is 100%, 1,000% with you and every single person in Artsakh. Thank you, David Babayan. It was good to see you again, and it was good to chat with you. Dr. Babayan will be a featured speaker at ANCAWR's Grassroots Conference tomorrow, Saturday, at the Universal Hilton Hotel. If you are not registered and would like to hear more from him and other experts on human rights as well as legal issues that are that we are confronting as a nation in the international community, please attend. The event starts at 10 a.m. Thank you again, and good luck. And thank you for watching. See you again next time.